What's up, guys? It's Rager, and today I will be starting a small series of videos on how to design a diet as an athlete or just somebody that's trying to stay in shape or get into shape or just be in good health in general. Today we'll be looking at macros. So you need to know that there are three macros: protein, carbs, and fats. First, let's look at protein. There's two types of protein: plant protein and animal protein. And those two are not the same. There's a thing called a DIA score, and that's digestible indispensable amino acid score. The higher the DIA score, the more absorbable the protein is by the human body. And animal proteins tend to have a much higher DIA score than plant proteins because usually proteins have fiber attached to the protein, which is not digestible by the human GI tract. So it just goes through you and you can't absorb it. So protein is the building block of muscle. That's you probably heard that before. It's no new information. When you eat it, it activates muscle protein synthesis, and obviously the processes are not this simple. But you need protein to build muscle and retain muscle. It's anti-catabolic. It's good for you. So you should always try to have a high protein diet, in my opinion, unless you have some underlying condition and you've been told by a medical professional not to do so. But it helps you to keep on muscle mass that you already have or build on muscle mass. And especially as you get older, you will tend to lose muscle mass. So having more protein to your diet, it's good for you. There's nothing wrong with doing that. So I'm not saying eat 8 chicken breasts a day, like every day, but I'm saying like don't just have pasta with tomato sauce. Maybe have pasta bolognese, or don't have maybe a ham and panini sandwich. Maybe have a chicken and cheese sandwich. Well, unless you put extra ham in it and you reach the protein goals, but usually it's just very small slices of ham. Cheese has some protein, but usually the amounts that you put in a sandwich are not enough. So just try to have a bit more protein in your diet. That's good. It also keeps you satiated, so it reduces your appetite a little bit. So most people nowadays tend to be a bit overweight. It's just what it is. That will help you to feel full, and you won't be going then off tangents on Kinder Bueno cravings. Okay, so now let's look at carbohydrates. There are three main types of carbohydrates. You have polysaccharides, disaccharides, and monosaccharides. But if you've done biology in high school, you probably heard those before and you know what they are. Just to explain quickly, if you haven't done biology in high school, polysaccharides are complex sugars, which would be like wheat, oats, barley, anything, so bread, pasta, rice, those kind of grains. They're broken down slowly by the body. There's slow sugars. Then you have disaccharides and monosaccharides. Those are quite similar. Disaccharides, pretty sure it's Greek for two. Monosaccharides, mono is one sugar. Monosaccharides, glucose, galactose, if I'm not mistaken, and maltose, I think. And then disaccharides, you have fructose, lactose, sucrose, I think. Ideally, you want complex carbohydrates so that you get a more even release of sugar into the bloodstream. So this will prevent a spike in insulin, which if it's initiated too often, by overconsumption of like refined carbohydrates, we're talking about sweets, things that have refined sugars in it. Over time, it can cause insulin resistance, leading to metabolic stress, and it can even cause metabolic syndrome. You don't want that. You don't want to be in a pre-diabetic state where your body just struggles to deal with sugar. You can't use nutrients properly. It's quite unhealthy. You don't want that. Carbohydrates are the main source of energy for humans. We're not going to talk about keto diets just now. Usually, they're the main source of energy. They restore your glycogen storages, which studies show to have a correlation with muscle building. If you have high glycogen storages, you get less, I think, CNS fatigue, so you can train harder, recover better. And then, so from a health point of view, I don't think that high amounts of carbohydrates are necessary because your body can activate a thing called gluconeogenesis. So it's a big fancy word, but basically what it means is turn non-dietary energy sources into carbohydrates. So that is taking, for instance, fat, converting it into ketones and using those ketones for energy as an alternative source of fuel, essentially utilizing, so stores triglycerides in adipose tissue as a source of energy. So in my opinion, from a pure health standpoint, I think that Everything in balance is the way to strive for an optimal lifestyle, as much as in the body, then in the mind. But combining a day when you eat carbs with a day when you don't, and once so often a water fast maybe, would be like the best for you to get the most optimal metabolic health, as long as you keep your calories in range. So it doesn't mean that one day you do water fast with some electrolytes, and then the next day you just destroy, you absolutely annihilate McDonald's. Like no, like don't do that. Don't do water fast then. If that's what happens the next day, just keep eating your pasta bolognese if you like pasta bolognese with an apple, or potatoes and chicken thighs with sauerkraut, whatever you like, right? Like, but don't do crazy extremes. That's no, don't do that. But however, then if you are looking to purely build muscle, like carbs will be a non-negligible staple, because there's also this whole IGF-1 insulin story that I won't get into because it's quite long. You can make a whole different video about it, but you need carbs if you're just trying to build muscle, bodybuilder, whatever you want to call yourself. Some good source of carbohydrates then would be rice, sweet potatoes, non-ultra processed bread. So by that I mean when you go to the local supermarket and you're like, oh, white bread, you look at the back, like, why the fuck is there nothing that I know on the ingredient list apart from wheat that is fourth on the list? So that means, if you didn't know, on a packet that is food or supplements, whatever is first is what there is most in the product. So if you look at something, for example, I'm just going to make something on top of my head. It's written tomato sauce on it, and the first ingredient is in tomato. Ask yourself questions. Anyways, next, oats. Barley products, buckwheat, pasta, any grain, any slow releasing carb. I think you have a good idea of what I mean by that. If something doesn't sit well, by the way, with your stomach, don't force feed yourself. Like, there's always an alternative. If you can't digest buckwheat, then maybe try potatoes. If potatoes make you sick, try oats. If oats make you fart, try rice. There's always a way. There's always a way. On the other hand, so the types of sugar that are generally unfavorable are the ones found in ultra-processed foods, such as like sweets, so candy, pastries, sweet beverages, processed chocolate, jam. By processed chocolate, I mean all the milk chocolate, all the white chocolate, all the caramel bullshit. If you really need your chocolate, have one square or two squares of the 90% or 80% Lindt dark chocolate, not Hershey bars or whatever you want to have, or Kinder Bueno. Like, don't have those. Or you can, but you have them as a treat. You don't have them like on the daily kind of thing, right? You can have a bit of sugar from time to time, like a few Haribos from a packet, but not Haribos by the bag kind of antics. Again, everything in balance is what you want. So, but again, we're all humans, so you can understand that you get a craving for sugar, but try to keep it to like sugars from natural sources and in small quantities. So as I mentioned, like fruits and honey and maple syrup. So even though those are not complex sugars, those will spike your insulin. I haven't looked into it in depth, but there seems to be studies that show that when sugars come from natural sources, the fact that they aren't dead foods, in the sense that they just provide you with macros and nothing else, they seem to be better for overall metabolic health. But again, it doesn't mean eat 17 apples and drink 3 whatever canisters of maple syrup. It just means you can put a bit of them on your pancakes if that's what you like. Have a bit of maple syrup, not the whole bottle. If still you can't help it and you want sugar, then try to get sugar-free pop and use sweeteners like sucralose. All the people out there saying, oh my God, sweeteners, no, it causes cancer, they're so bad for you, etc. You think that white refined sugar doesn't cause cancer? Think for yourself a bit. It's obviously so much better for you than eating white refined sugar, or any refined sugar, to be honest. There was a study done, I think, on rats where they used aspartame at super high doses. They were giving them the equivalent of the aspartame you find in 50 liters of Coke. So if somebody on Earth can drink 50 liters of Coke a day, like, well done. Just have some Coke Zero or whatever zero pop that you want. Kind of quench that I want sugar need. Something I like to do, for instance, is have yogurt with fruit. I like to do that before bed. Casein protein, like if I have any craving in the evening, that just kills it. So skyr yogurt with a bit of fruit, and I put some sucralose, so it makes it sweet, and there's a bit of sugar from the fruit too. That's all right. When you eat carbohydrates, don't count fiber as a source of carbohydrate because you can't digest it. It just goes straight through the GI tract. That's why you want more fiber in your diet if you struggle with bowel movement. But again, some people might not sit very well with fiber. Like it might actually go through them like crazy and get things like leaky gut and stuff. But if yourself, if all you eat is steak and chicken breast, rice, white rice, no fruit, no vegetable, no fiber containing grains like brown bread, stuff like that, and you get obliterated then on the bathroom pushing super hard, going Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Blue, whatever Super Saiyan you want to go to, then obviously you need to switch the diet a bit. Maybe add some salad, maybe add some cucumber, just something that makes the food move better through your bowel. Okay, now let's look at fats, or to be more precise, lipids. So you have saturated fats, unsaturated fats, trans fats, and cholesterol. Those are the ones I'll be focusing on more today. Just to get it out of the way, trans fats are banned now in foods because they're just really bad for you. I won't get into the details of like what does that mean. Why they're so bad is quite easy. They just clog your arteries. They're not good for your health. You don't want trans fats in your diet at all, or at negligible amounts. You don't want trans fats in your diet. But fats are good for you. So they're important in one's diet in order to properly carry out many body functions, such as steroid hormone synthesis. Let's talk about saturated fats now. Saturated fats usually come from animal sources, such as animal fat, so the fat that you find in all the meats from the animals, eggs, and dairy. For an individual in good health, they are a good source of fat. They should still not be overused in a balanced diet. So you need to have a decent amount of saturated fats, but not only saturated fats. And there's been this devilization of saturated fats being really bad for you. And unless your metabolic health is already bad, then they might be bad for you. But otherwise, they're a good source of fat. As a rule of thumb, saturated fats, they're solid at room temperature. So butter, bone marrow, beef tallow, lard. There's other ones, whatever animal fat, right? Those tend to increase HDL and LDL synthesis in the body. So those are lipoproteins that have for role to transport cholesterol around the body. So when people tell you good and bad cholesterol, HDL, LDL, that's wrong terminology because HDL and LDL are not cholesterol. HDL, which is known as the good cholesterol, and LDL as the bad cholesterol, they're rather cholesterol vessels, not actually cholesterol. They carry the cholesterol in your body, but they're not cholesterol. However, it's good to know as good and bad because then you know what the biomarkers mean. And if you're under the age of 30 and there's no family history of can never pronounce it, atherosclerosis, your levels of cholesterol, or to be more precise, the low density lipoprotein, the LDL-C, LDL cholesterol, should not be a huge concern unless you're like dramatically outside the range. I'm talking like 90th percentile of the population with skyrocketing high cholesterol levels. Now let's look at unsaturated fats. Unsaturated fats are usually found from fruit, seeds, and plants and nuts. So they're all plant-based, essentially. They're a healthy source of fat. But again, in moderation, some of the main unsaturated fats are oleic acid, which is a monounsaturated fat, and linoleic acid, which is an omega-6. Let's first have a look at linoleic acid. That's the one that seems to cause most of the trouble nowadays. If you go onto YouTube and you type linoleic acid, you'll see videos and videos about it being good or bad. I personally think it's okay as long as it comes from a non-processed source, so in very small amounts. Now I'll explain why it's usually not okay. Linoleic acid, although it's not inherently harmful when consumed in small quantities, it is pumped into all processed foods. Like, it's ridiculous. If you look at just random shit, there should not be seed oils in. You look at the back and you see vegetable oil, canola oil, sunflower oil. Like, why is there sunflower oil in my bread? Like, this is not an ingredient that's supposed to be in bread. I don't have an example off the top of my head of what I saw these things in, but just for fun, in your cereal, for fun, go out into your house, look at just random ingredients, and you will find just seed oils in ingredients for no reason. or it's just to make them last longer, taste better. The fact that it's pumped into everything, into all the processed foods at such unnatural high amounts that makes it unhealthy. So besides processed foods, fried foods are another one on the list. The process of frying makes your food just soak up all this unnatural seed oil. And think about it, because to get 7 tablespoons of sunflower oil, you need to extract it from 2.5 pounds of sunflower seeds. Like, who is going to eat 2.5 pounds of sunflower seeds in one sitting? Like, no one. Maybe at some stupid competition that we do nowadays. And 7 tablespoons of sunflower oil is like bare minimum to deep fry something. Obviously, you won't use all the oil to deep fry, but it's still a lot. If you want to add some nuts to your diet, go ahead, pine nuts, peanuts, walnuts, cashews, pistachios. Again, like in moderation, like add a bit here and there, that's all right. But it's just to refine extracted oils that you want to try to reduce considerably. Ideally, completely remove them and maybe save them for occasions where diet is less under your control. For example, when you go out for food with your friends or family or girlfriend, unless you're a complete nerd and you prefer to stay at home, of course. But, you do you, man. There are also fruit alternatives such as olives and avocado. So you definitely heard of the hype about olive oil and avocado oil. Well, olive oil actually not really that hype. It's always been around, but avocado oil I feel like is getting popular lately. And those are good sources of oleic acid with little amounts of linoleic acid. So these can also be found in oil forms. And while being better sources of fat than seed oils, in my opinion, try not to abuse them either. So a little olive oil in a salad never killed anyone, and I doubt it ever will. Same with avocado oil, just to put a bit in a pan to fry a steak, that's all right. Just make sure it's just reasonable amounts. It makes sense to you. So now another type of unsaturated fat that you've likely heard about is omega-3s. So those are a great source of fat. They're great to reduce the bad cholesterol and increase the good cholesterol. Even though now you know that there's no bad or good cholesterol, you just know there's good lipoproteins and bad lipoproteins. Bad for most of the population, unless you have such a good metabolic health that you have no endothelial damage and the LDL lipoprotein will not get into your arteries and clog them. But for most people, we've already damaged ourselves enough with whatever partying, alcohol, or eating not the best quality foods. They're usually recommended to be supplemented for heart health and, interestingly, brain health too. The one that seems to be the most pertinent for brain health is an omega-3 called DHEA. So DHEA is a major structural component of neuronal cells. They're found in the neuronal cell membrane, particularly in the cerebral cortex and the synapse. Cerebral cortex is essentially the brain. It's a fancy word to say the outer part of the brain. And synapses are connections in between your neurons to communicate to each other. So DHEA also plays a role in the formation and function of synapses, the connection between neurons that facilitate their communication between each other within the brain. It supports the release and reception also of neurotransmitters, enhancing learning and memory processes. And overall, it enhances neurotransmission. On top of that, DHEA promotes the growth of new neurons, things called neuroplasticity, and the maintenance of the existing ones, which is vital for cognitive health. And now let's move on to EPA, which is the other big omega-3 that's very popular for heart health. EPA seems to reduce chronic inflammation, which is a key factor in the development of cardiovascular diseases. It also helps with blood lipid regulation by lowering triglycerides and improving cholesterol balance. And a great natural source of omega-3s is fish and crustaceans. Although they're not always easy to obtain and or affordable on a daily basis, that's where supplementation could become a very helpful alternative. Now, let's move on to cholesterol. So although cholesterol has gotten a bad reputation in the past, now people come to realize that things are not so black and white. Cholesterol is a staple in the human body for cellular function and steroid hormone synthesis, such as cortisol, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone. A lot of steroids need cholesterol for synthesis, and all of them, I think. So if you didn't know, every single cell in your body synthesizes cholesterol, and it is essential for membrane function in the cells. Without cholesterol, you wouldn't be here to listen to this video, and I wouldn't be here making this video. We just wouldn't exist. Another cool function of cholesterol, in my opinion, is that the neurons in your brain are connected between each other with these wires. So you have the cell body, that's like the heart, kind of the neuron, and then there's a wire that spreads and connects to the next neuron, and that wire is called an axon. They connect between each other with electrical signals sent through that wire called the axon. And in order for the electrical signal to travel effectively, these axons are insulated with a coating called a myelin sheath. The cholesterol helps synthesize that myelin sheath. That's one of its functions in the human body also. Cholesterol and other fats. So even though cholesterol has been told to be a bad thing for humans, I don't know, for such a long time, it's not. Like, unless it's so high that it's causing you problems, destroying your cholesterol levels everywhere in the body, it's not good either. Now, there is like medication that's been made that's more selective. PCSK9, I think it's the name of the drug, but it's like it's more selective in the liver, I think, rather than statins. That used to be the old way to treat high cholesterol levels, but there are side effects with statins more than there is with new drugs. But the main factor that would determine then if cholesterol is harmful for you or not is the main factors rather is your age, your genetics. Genetics actually should be before age. Genetics is the main factor of everything that happens to you. So genetics, age, saturated fat consumption, triglyceride levels, body fat, and overall metabolic health. And now cholesterol from the diet. Cholesterol, if you didn't know, is almost not absorbed from the diet. So the cholesterol you ingest is esterified cholesterol. It means there's a molecule of cholesterol, and on it there's an ester that's attached. Your body, when it digests it and goes into the small intestine, there's receptors in the small intestine, which I do not remember the name of, but they can only absorb non-esterified cholesterol, because the cholesterol that is esterified is just too big. It can't go through the receptors. The body can only, I think, de-esterify 10 to 15% of the cholesterol that you ingest from the diet. So even if you have a very cholesterol high, rich diet from organs and eggs, it won't actually increase the cholesterol this much. It's more so the saturated fats that you eat that will increase your cholesterol or your metabolic health. So what to retain from this is that as a human being, you have control over what you eat and your lifestyle, but not your genetics. So that's one for you to think about a bit. And I know that I haven't mentioned vegetables and fruits much. The story about them is, again, it's not black and white. But for this video, I will just say that eat some fruit and some vegetables as long as you like them. Don't force feed yourself fruit and vegetables that you don't like. Have them along with your meals or not. Doesn't really matter. Unless there's some that cause you issues like flatulence or cause you some discomfort in digestion or whatever it might be, in bowel movement, just remove them from the diet. It's not important. I promise you that if you stop eating your broccoli, you're not going to get sick. It's okay. Do whatever feels good for you. If you feel great not eating vegetables, that's okay then. I will not tell people not to eat vegetables. I'm just saying try to find what's good for you. Just do trial and error, essentially. And personally, I don't think either I should hammer astronomical amounts of vegetables to be a healthy human, even though that's kind of what was emphasized to us from a very young age. But we don't know. Is it that people that eat a lot of vegetables tend to eat less shit, like refined sugar, seed oils, like I've already mentioned it, or that vegetables themselves generally have very good health benefits? Who knows? There's one thing that's for sure is that if you eat a lot of vegetables, you will have less space to eat those calorie-packed foods, processed foods. That might be why as well you'd be healthier if you ate more vegetables. What's better for you, to eat a steak with 3 bags of salad or a Big Mac with fries? I think you can answer that one yourself. And if you can't, you're cooked, man. Now for ratios. So these are individual independent. That's based on your goals, your age, your sex. But I will still give general figures that seem to accommodate most healthy individuals. So I think no one should be gaining weight excessively quick unless you're advised to do so by a medical professional. And in most cases, it actually is quite unhealthy to do so. And if you struggle to gain weight with the numbers I put up, keep protein and fats the same as mentioned in the gain weight category, and just increase the carbs until you see the results on the scale. It's not very difficult to work around, because obviously if you already have a good bit of muscle, your maintenance will be higher than somebody that has less muscle. But yeah, just keep fats and protein more or less the same, and just increase your carbohydrates. So this video is a guideline that I try to make for people who work out or do sport and are trying to get in shape or simply care about their health. But I'm not a medical professional, so it's up to you of what to do with this information, and consult a practitioner if you have health issues and listen to his recommendations, not mine. Also, diet is of course important as it is the fuel for your body, so make sure that you don't go for the cheaper option. But you can also live a good life and have fun with your friends, going out for dinner, doing a pizza party, eating some birthday cake. All of that is okay, as long as it is occasional and not habitual. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I like to stick generally to the 80-20 rule. 80% dialed, 20% fun, not the other way around. I hope you liked this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment for the algorithm. Take care, stay healthy, and get big.